In this tutorial, we're going to cover how you can set up a custom interactive booth map, how your users can reserve those booth locations, and then finally how you can publish the booth map for the public to be able to see and interact with your booth map and see all of the vendors. Now, the first thing you'll need to do is add your booths to the booth map. Now, in order to have these options here, the standard booth, large booth, outdoor booth, and food truck, you first need to set up your booths in the booths section. Now that I have those booth types set up, I can add multiple instances of those booths to my interactive map. In order to add a new booth, you simply click on the label. This will add the booth to the center of your map. You can then use the rotate option here to rotate the booth at any orientation you want. Now, you'll of course want to get your booth zoomed in, your map rather, zoomed into the exact location fairly close to where you want to place your booth maps. You can choose to work in satellite view or in map view. Now, in order to edit a booth, if you want to edit an existing booth, you simply double click that on the map. It will highlight yellow, and then you're able to rotate that specific booth. So if I want to adjust this booth over here, I can simply double click it and then rotate it. Also note that if you want to delete a booth, you can simply double click it and press the delete icon to remove it from the map. Now, it's a good idea when you're making your booth maps to save often. So the locations and rotations are saved by clicking the Save Current Booth Position and Scale. As soon as you click that, you can go ahead and refresh the page, and you'll notice those changes are permanently saved. So as you're working, periodically remember to save the current position and scale. In addition to double clicking, you can also just select from the drop-down list here to highlight any booth on the map in order to make any rotational changes. Now you can see I have several booths here loaded, and we have one additional option, which is where you can add a custom image overlay. Now, in most instances, the default map here that's provided by Google is sufficient for placing your booths. However, some instances where you may be placing booths inside of an existing building, for example, if I was in satellite view here, you can see this is a building. So if I wanted to be placing booths inside of here, you may want to add your own custom image onto the map. In order to do that, simply come over here to the custom map image URL and paste in the URL for your image. Now you first need to upload the image. A great place to do that is under the Pages and Page Image Upload section. You can just click the Add New Upload to add your custom booth map. Now you can see here, I've just quickly added this little sample here to show you how this works. So what you need to do is copy the URL, and I'll come back over here to my booth section and the booth map creator. And all I do is simply paste in that URL and click Add. And you can see that this adds the booth image onto, or rather the custom map image onto my design here. Now you can grab these two little handles to sort of resize this, and you'll need to just kind of play around and tweak this. You can see that I've designed this a little bit to match up with the current one. So what I'm going to do here is just zoom out a tad and then play around here to get this just aligned how I want. So I can just kind of get this in this close enough fashion for this sample here. And I'll consider this right here about good enough. So I'll just resize a little bit more. Now you are able to rotate this as well, so you can kind of rotate. What I recommend is you get it roughly at the same size as you want, and then go ahead and make any rotational adjustments. As when you rotate, the arrows don't follow with the rotation, so it's a little bit confusing. You still have to click the arrow to do the sizing rather at this point right here. So go ahead and place that just in the right location, and then go ahead and say save again. And now notice that when I refresh, that map is now permanent. Now this little toggle right here simply toggles the visibility between semi-transparent and transparent, allowing you to place the booth in the correct location. Once you have it placed in the correct location, you can of course turn on the fully opaque mode and save. Now that I have this little custom map here, you can see that I can zoom in and still see my booths as is. In order to delete the custom map, you simply remove the URL and click the Save button again, and then go ahead and refresh your page, and you'll see that that custom image is now gone. Okay, now the next thing I want to show you is how a user can reserve a booth. You'll notice that this booth right here is red, meaning that a user has already reserved that booth location. So booths that have been reserved, or claimed as we call them, appear red. Booths that are available have this green border around them. Now I'm going to log into the user account so you can see exactly how this workflow works for a specific user who has already chosen your booth. You can see here that when the user logs in, they're presented with the pending action item of make a booth payment. They'll go ahead and click this to fill out the booth payment. Now you can see here that it tells them all the details of the booth they have selected, and they can go ahead and make a payment. So I'll just go ahead and here click make the payment. This will of course email them a receipt of their payment. They're then redirected to the page where they can reserve their booth location. So when they click reserve booth location, they're presented with a map that only shows them the booths that belong to the type that they have pre-registered for. So what they can do, you can see here that this booth is unavailable because it is red. So if they try to reserve this, it says the booth has already been reserved. So these are the two options. They simply can double click the booth to highlight it over here, and they can optionally also just select from the list drop down and select any booth they want as well. So I'm going to go ahead and select the booth number 3 and click on reserve booth. And that's pretty much it. So now they've reserved that, they can go ahead and view their booth location. When they view the booth location, it will take them to the interactive map, highlight their booth that they've reserved, and they can see all of the details. Now this map that they're seeing here is what we call the public booth map, and you can publish this for all of your users to see. So what you can do on this page is, let's say you have some fairgoers that want to attend your fair, and you can provide them with a QR code where they can easily get redirected to this page on their smartphones or devices. They can go ahead and select from the drop-down list of all of your vendors, and it will automatically highlight that area on the booth, center the map, and then also show the images and the vendor data over here on the right. They can also see the colors and the legend here of all the various booths and what they do. So for a user, it makes it really easy for them to browse around the available vendors and booths on your website. Now that page is published in the pages underneath site pages, and you'll go ahead and publish this booth map. Now this is optional. You don't have to publish a public booth map, but if you do, it will allow the public to be able to see those booths. Simply click the edit button and you can either turn on or off this booth map. One additional feature here is the interactive booth map QR code. So you may want to come into the large print view, and you can go ahead and print this on a very large sheet of paper. This allows anyone that's going to the fair to be able to just quickly scan this QR code on their smart devices, and it will automatically redirect them to that interactive booth map page where they can then scroll around and view all of the vendor information directly from their smart devices. The final thing we need to cover is how the admin user themselves can assign various applicants to booth locations. So you sort of have two options. Option 1 is where the users self-claim the booth maps as I just barely illustrated, meaning they get to pick their own location and reserve on a first come, first served basis. Option 2 is where the call administrator would log in and assign all the applicants to various booth locations themselves. So if you want to allow users to self-claim, you need to come into the self-claim settings and make sure that's turned on. Okay? If you leave this off, this will mean that users are not able to reserve their own locations. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this off and update the settings and show you how this process works. So if the admin user needs to assign people, you do this back on the same booth map creator. You can go ahead and simply double click a booth, and then once you've highlighted a booth, underneath the choose application, you'll see a listing of all of the various applications who have been juried in that have reserved this booth type. So for example, if I click on this one, you'll notice that there is a single application. If I click on this one, you'll notice that there's another application. If I double click on this one, you'll notice there are different applications. Notice for this one, there's quite a few applications who have reserved this booth type. These two right here say claimed because they are already claimed. So I'll go ahead and come over here to the L4 spot, and I'll choose this application ID 10 and just go ahead and select claim. And that's pretty much it. You've now assigned that user to this specific location. I'll do the same thing over here for F9, and I'll go ahead and reserve that for this person. I'll then come over here to S14, and I'll go ahead and reserve that for just another one here, another random one, and we'll claim that. And that's the process of assigning users to specific locations. You can see I have now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 booths that are reserved. Down here, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll get some statistics about each booth. So you can see my standard booth, I have 3 booths available. 3 have been claimed, meaning no more are available. For this large booth, I have 4 on my map. 1 has been claimed, meaning 3 are still available, and you can see exactly the stats for each of your booth types. Now when I come over here to my interactive booth map again, you'll see that I have more vendors available because I've now assigned more people to locations. So I can then go ahead and cycle through these again to see all of the vendor information that's been assigned to those locations. If you're self-assigning the users to the booth maps, the users themselves are still able to see those locations. So when they log in, for example, I'm going to come back over here to the back end and I'll just log in here as a sample user. So I'll come down here to my registered users tab. And actually, let's come over here to the submissions tab and I'll just pick a user here at random. So it looks like this Andrew user here. Let's log in as him. So you'll notice that this user here can see their booth location that's been assigned to them. They can go ahead and click on View Booth Location, and they can see exactly that, oh, yep, they've been assigned location number 15. So they can be ready to set up there when they arrive on the day. All right, so that is how you can use the interactive booth map inside of the booth map creator for several different options and ways where you can have those booths set up for your fair or festival.